Apparently, the Board of Regents back in the mid-50s decided that it wasn't ladylike to have women marching on the football field. So, all the men that wanted to march were told to report to this old dungeon-like room beneath the swimming pool, while Oakley Pittman, Dry's predecessor, continued to meet the concert band up at McFarland Auditorium. I asked Coach to give us the details.
The university said it's going to be an all-male band and all jazz. That was dictated to me, and I was all in favor of it. Oh, they had a male band all those years until the war came, World War II, and they only took in women then because they had to. Had nobody else to fill in for them. And then we took them out when I came there.
So that had already been decided that it would be a male band before you came.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the people that you inherited that were already in the band when you were there? There's some pretty big names in the band business around at that time, like Howard Dunn and Butch. And,
yeah.
That's when Dick Floyd was there, as I recall.
Yeah, Dick Floyd was there. Joe Pinson was there.
Darrell Chambers.
Darrell Chambers was there. The attitude was favorable, you know. They could see the change was going to be made, because I told them cold turkey, we're going to get with this thing or bye. And they didn't want to say bye. They want to see it go. So, and of course, the funny part about it, that Jimmy Jones was in the band. And Jimmy was a little shaky, came from Richardson, and a little shaky about doing things and participating with a bunch of men on the thing. And they took him up to Denton as a freshman.
Yes.
Undressed him, left him on the ladies' campus at Texas Women's University.
We did give him a dime, though.
Yeah.
Gave him a dime for the phone?
Okay. Gave him a dime for the phone, for him to phone his mother.
Yes.
Remember?
Well, we didn't tell him who to call.
and I didn't know anything about it. I had no idea they were doing it until I got a call from Willie State, the president. What in the devil is going on down there? Take a man up to them, undress him, leave him the women's campus, and leave him there. Had you had any part to do with that? I didn't even know it occurred. No, sir. You better not be lying to me. I'm not lying to you. I'll find out. He said, let me know. So I let him know, and I said, the guys have already said it. And he said, well, the mother was real unhappy about it. And I said, well, Jimmy settled down. He's all right. And I've talked to Jimmy, and I have now talked to his mother, and she's agreed everything's going to be fine. There's no problem. Oh, boy, I worked like mad on that one. But it was funny at the time, but not to Jimmy.
The Mustang Band made the national news just a few years ago when ryegrass seed was dropped by each bandsman onto the TCU football field as the band stood in the traditional Diamond M formation during a halftime performance. The seed sprouted not long afterwards, and the Diamond M was fully visible on the Frog's own gridiron. In fact, the long-standing tradition of pulling pranks like this on rival Southwest Conference schools began early in your tenure as director. Coach, were there times when you had some fast talking to do with your own administration as a result of these extracurricular activities?
Not necessarily, no, because every time that the freshman class would take the rice owl or the letter scoreboard, stuff from TCU, or the horns from Texas, all this stuff, they'd bring it home, we'd display it, and send it back immediately to the school that we took it from. And we didn't steal it from them.
Do you recall when the Longhorns were taken out of the band hall? How that happened?
Out of the band hall? Yeah, they left my band at halftime and went over there and put it in a truck and carried it on back, got it out of Austin.
Well, that's not how it really happened.
How did it really happen?
Well,
again, I didn't hear the full story.
Well, Nick Reneker and Joe Kindred left at halftime. You didn't miss them then. Nick stole the horns. Judy, his girlfriend, was waiting for him. They hid the horns outside of town. Third quarter, Dick Floyd and I left.
No kidding.
And you didn't miss us for some reason. And you didn't see us again until we walked in the Elite Cafe in Waco and gave the horns to
I
you.
remember that now. I was stunned when I saw the horn.
Yes, well, the horns were so long we had to put a blanket on each side of Dick's Impala to cover them up. They were 7 feet long.
Oh, you stunned me. But it was bigger stun is when the freshmen stole that great big rice owl that they put in front of the band out there in front of the whole student body. Just walked off the field with it, up the ramp and out. And nobody said a word. Next week was Pigskin Review, and we put it in the pit and put it on that rising organ stand that comes from the bottom, where they used to have the organ come up. They really didn't mean it, but here it is. And that rice owl comes out of the stand up there, and the fans at SMU went nuts. How in the devil could y'all get that rice owl? And I still don't know how I got them out.
We just walked out with it. You remember when they stole our sign
Which woman?
over the band hall?
Oh, from Texas?
No, TCU stole it.
Our sign.
Yeah, the band.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Joe Kindred, we knew somebody in the TCU band, and he went over and captured it and brought it back. Little Joe Kindred.
Well, that Kendrick, I remember they got it back all right.
Yeah.
Oh, but all the schools knew it. We stole the Texas Tech bell from them, had them there, presented it to them at the Cotton Bowl. But they all knew they were going to get it back. We weren't stealing it permanently. It was just a deal. Guys, have fun, change the school spirit. And that's when everybody looked at it favorably.
I read up.
Except the Aggies.
Yeah, they didn't
When
like
they
that.
when they planted that SMU in the grass down there on the football field with ryegrass, and it came up and it spelled SMU on there, and they had to dig it all up. They weren't happy about that.
And that time at A&M when we tried to steal that hat off that Aggie, that was not a good thing.
Well, the sword.
Well, there was more Aggie than there were band members.
Oh, yeah, at Aggie Land.
Well, and also we've got to remember that the Aggies were doing a few things up on our campus too.
Oh, yeah, the Aggies were trying to thing.
They were taking the mascot pruning,
That's right.
cutting her tail off and cutting her mane off. And
Yeah, but they were doing damage to stuff.
Yeah, what about, we did get back at them though. Remember that fateful day in the Cotton Bowl when the A&M band was marching and somebody started blowing whistles?
Oh, yeah, broke up the block T.
Yeah, I think that might have been
Joe Tom, the band leader's up in the press box with me. That block T just folded up in front of us. Joe says, "Oh my God, I'm going to jump." It never happened to him before. 2 weeks after, and he was an SMU boy, the band leader at A&M. See, he was in the Mustang band at one time. He'd got a letter 2 weeks after that. I got a letter from him, and he'd got a letter from them saying, "Well, I'll tell you one thing. Sure is nice the Aggie band can stay together this week."
Oh yeah. And the other owl that we stole was the stuffed owl, which they stole at a dance, a little dance.
One, yeah.
And I read up on that, but I didn't know the history about that. And I think the reason Rice didn't get so upset about that was A&M stole that owl first.
Rice Red didn't care, Butch.
Well, but this time though, when A&M stole it, they sent it back stuffed.
Well, I know. They killed the owl.
That's right. So they didn't mind when we just had the stuff.
And that's not right to do things like that, of course not, or damage anything. But, you know, it was fun at the time, but it's a different deal now. Everything has changed, times change, you have to change with it. But that was some great memories.
Yes.
Well, in '71, a couple of SMU Mustang band freshmen actually went down to the University of Texas and auditioned for Vince Donino and wound up stealing about half the band hall. We've got a nice big picture with all the loot that they hauled out of the UT band hall.
Oh, yeah, but they returned it. And that was Joe.
COD, as I recall, wasn't he,
It's
Coach?
the guy that wrote for Dallas Morning News. Richter, remember he had a case with tools and everything in it, and he brought it to the band hall, and I said, "You've got to take that back," and he took it back, got it back, but they gave him heck about that one. Vince didn't like that too much, but Vince wasn't quite understanding. None of them were. Jacobson wasn't too understanding at TCU either, but we didn't do any damage to him.
I got to mention something. This letter that Stan gave me, or let me read, was when they offered you the job at SMU, and of course Sterling Wheeler's vice president was one who signed it, and this was February 18th, and it lists all the stuff that you wanted to do and so forth. And I went back and did some research, and in 1959, in the Campus Daily, this is what it says: band reemphasizes playing jazz during performances, which caused the vice president to say, Sterling Wheeler, "This is the greatest spirited band I've seen on the SMU campus."
Well, he was prejudiced.
Well, I think he liked it, though.
Oh, sure he liked it.
Yeah.
Well, the whole, Butch, that was the big band era. And this is the right music and the right time to play it. And since they introduced jazz with Cy Barkus there when the band first got together, they were known through the years as playing jazz. Billy Mayo and all that stuff through the years had played jazz on the field, Dixieland, stuff like that, but not the big band jazz. So it was a wide open field for me to take the Glenn Miller, the Harry James stuff and so forth. And if you remember, we carried that over to basketball season.
Exactly.
And then Dick Davis came in on the scene and made fluorescent lights. Well, they're iridescent lights out of Moody, and they turned those lights on, and it took them 15 minutes for them to come back full force. So we couldn't turn them off at halftime anymore. So that blew the halftime shows of knocking the lights out, and which we thought was a good deal. Because many times the Aggies would come to town. One Aggie drum major came up to me after one of the SMU basketball games. "Sir, you're never to play the Aggie war hymn. Nobody plays that but the Texas Aggie band." I said, "Sir, would you check with the band leader down at A&M? He happens to be a graduate out of this band. I think he understands a little bit differently than that." I phoned Joe Tom Haney. Joe Tom Haney, the band leader, got hold of that Aggie cheerleader, and I got a telephone call. "Sir, I'm awfully sorry. You're right. You can play it anytime you want to."
I remember that story. I remember Joe Tom telling me about that.
And so all these things happen, during the times that, and Sterling was all this for the jazz, the big band jazz. Hit it at the right time. I had the right arranger and the right time.
And actually,
just when I married my wife now, I was at the right place at the right time.
What can you say?
And then she wouldn't take me at first.
I talked her into it.
You're the one that talked her in. That's got it. Now, I've got your blessing now.
your arrival at SMU in 1958 is just a short 20 years after the real start of the big band era. So it must have been quite an advantage to have that sound so prevalent in society. So it was so
Especially when you have
recognizable.
Harry James Jr. in the band, and he came up there broke. And he was going to North Texas. And Louise Tobin, his mother, was Benny Goodman's first singer. And she said, "I want you to give him a good education at SMU." Well, he came down there, and he wouldn't sign up for English, history, nothing, just music. Well, they called me over there and said, "We can't take him in school if he doesn't sign up for these courses." So I said, "Well, James, are you going to sign up or not?" He said, "No, I'm not going to, only music." I said, "Okay." I phoned his dad. "Harry, James not going to take anything but music. They can't get him in school." He said, "Let me call you back in about an hour." He called me back in an hour. He says, "Dry," he says, "what are you doing about 30 minutes from now?" I said, "Nothing. Can you take him to the airport?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "He's now in the Lackland Air Force Band." He enrolled him in the service. And after 4 years, he came out. He looked me up first, put his hands out and says, "Can you let me have $1? And I want to go to SMU." I said, "You got it." And he was a very good attraction at the time. Brought a lot of newspaper and media deal. We featured him in the Cotton Bowl.
Doing Zarba the Greek,
Doing
right?
Zarba the Greek.
Yeah.
With Dave Alley.
With David Alley.
Yep.
Yep.